Mission Brain is a non-profit organization which aims to provide neurosurgical expertise and resources to patients, caregivers, and healthcare workers in underprivileged areas across the world. It was founded by Dr. Alfredo Quinones Hinojosa, who is the current chief of head of Department of Neurosurgery at Mayo Clinic, Florida, and also the co-founder Dr. Michael Lawton, who is the chief of neurosurgery at Barrow Neurological Institute, Phoenix, Arizona. As they started this Mission Brain program in 2010, they expanded across Mexico, Philippines, the Caribbean, and Peru. As part of the South Asian expansion, we, the future surgeons and doctors of tomorrow, aim to be part of this mission to expand its frontiers in India. To understand the neurosurgical scenario in India, we have with us an eminent neurosurgeon, Dr. Dwarkanath Srinivas, who is the current professor and head of the Department of Neurosurgery at the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS, Bangalore, India, which is the most premium institute for neuroscience in India. He started off his medical career by doing his Bachelor of Surgery and Bachelor of Medicine at the prestigious institute Bangalore Medical College and bagged the first rank in the university and passed out with 12 gold medals. He then continued to do his general surgery at the prestigious Institute of Postgraduate Medical Education, PGI, Chandigarh, and bagged the first rank in general surgery. He then went on to do his MCH in yet another prestigious institute, All India Institute of Medical Science, AIIMS, Delhi, India. He truly has been part of all the prestigious institutes and has been a meritorious student all along. He then went on to join as a faculty in AIIMS, Delhi and NIMHANS, Bangalore, and did multiple fellowships such as the CNS Sujita Fellowship in US and many others in Japan. And currently he is the International Fellow of the American Association of Neurosurgeons and elected as the Fellow of American College of Surgeons, and we are truly honored to have you today with us, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome. To start off with, as a leader in neuroscience, how would you today see the current situation and what are the most common neurological conditions patients present with in India?
I think, thank you for the introduction. I think the most common problems nowadays are basically on trauma and oncology. Because India is probably the accident capital of the world, and we have a huge amount of accidents occurring daily because of a variety of reasons, and that in oncology. And the problem with these are that they are all unplanned emergencies. The cost of treatment is quite prohibitive in many centers, and out-of-pocket expenditure is a major problem for the family members. Then there is a silent pandemic, that is the stroke and cerebrovascular diseases, which are increasing day by day, probably because a lot of unhealthy lifestyles which have been adopted over the past many years. And then with the increasing and aging population of India, the geriatric population is expanding, and the geriatric problems like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all have shown an increase over the past many years.
Okay. What is the burden of these diseases on the society today, sir?
The problem is that most of them are, these patients who suffer are uninsured. They do not have any financial backup, and there are very few centers which actually which give affordable health care at a cost which is payable by these patients. That and the increasing morbidity because of this polytrauma constitutes a lot of burden on the family. And for example, the trauma usually affects the earning population.
Yes.
So if you imagine the earning member of the family is either disabled or maimed or dead, the whole family suffers.
Yes.
And the poverty increases. And then oncology, then followed by radiation, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, they put a lot of stress on the finances of these families, and that's a huge issue with many of the families in the country.
Okay. India has seen a paradigm shift in the past 20 to 30 years in all sectors, including medicine. From when you were training, sir, up till now leading this institute, what are the changes and how has the field evolved?
Yeah, I think in the 80s and 90s we were more concentrating on developing neurosurgery into a very good specialty. I mean, there were very few centers far in between.
Yes.
And we were more concentrating on general neurosurgery. But over the past 15, 20 years, what has happened is there's been an explosion in the subspecialties. More and more students are coming to it, more and more facilities are opening up for training, and basically the entire field has expanded. So now the focus is more on to subspecialties. For example, functional neurosurgery dealing with deep brain stimulation, epilepsy, cerebrovascular surgery dealing with stroke, aneurysms, etc. Pediatric neurosurgery, then spine of course is a completely separate field by itself, and then other minor subspecialties like pain management. All those things have evolved over the last 15 to 20 years, and probably what I would say is that probably in the next 5 to 10 years, if you go to a doctor for a particular illness, you would rather have a person who has specialized in that field rather than having a general neurosurgeon having a look at you. For example, even if you have back pain, or if let's say if you have a slip disc, you would rather go to a spine surgeon, right?
Yes.
You wouldn't be going to a guy who does a bit of everything. You'd rather go to a guy who has been doing that particular pathology for a lot many years.
Very true.
So I think this is what is going to happen, and probably in another 10-15 years this is going to be the norm, in which the subspecialties are getting more prominence instead of a general neurosurgery.
Definitely. So the only constant thing is change, and like Dr. Dwarkanath put it across, there is going to be a huge shift in the way we practice medicine. Coming to the next question, more than 70% of the population in India reside in the rural areas, and if for them it is difficult to access apex centers like NIMHANS or any tertiary care center where they provide advanced healthcare. How could we improve the current situation and help them seek medical care in the crucial golden hour?
That again is a very difficult question to answer. See, there is a huge dichotomy of how things are in India. You have the rural population, which basically has the bulk of the population, but very poor or spartan skeletal health facilities.
Yes.
While the urban healthcare has a different problem. We have very good health facilities in the urban and semi-urban areas, but the problem is again is affordability. So people either don't have access to quality healthcare, or they do not have the finances to pay for quality healthcare.
Yes.
So now, how do we do it in the golden hour? I think I'll come back to that later. So probably what we need to do to improve the facilities is probably would have to be driven by the government. So what you need to do is you have to establish basic neurosurgical facilities and emergency facilities in the villages and the semi-rural areas, and concentrate on providing affordable tertiary and quaternary healthcare in urban areas. This would probably involve the expansion of the Ayushman Bharat.
Yes.
The Ayushman Bharat is a very good scheme, but many private hospitals have not taken it because it is not financially feasible for them. So probably the government should think about expanding the Ayushman Bharat and probably make it a little more attractive make it widespread acceptance. Regarding the golden hour, that's also a very good question. I mean, we did health awareness programs on Trauma Day. So the problem with the golden hour is that again there are many of the accidents occur in remote areas where there are not many ambulances.
Yes.
And all that. So the concept of the golden hour is to get the patient into the hospital within the first hour, where the morbidity and the mortality come down dramatically if you are treated within that. So to do that, what we have to do is probably expand the para-hospital healthcare, train attenders, train paramedical staff who can provide first aid at the spot, and then shift the patient rapidly to the institutes which provide neurosurgical care. The 108 system, the ambulance system, I think this was not there for 20 years back when we started off.
Yes.
So that's a very good system, and they provide very good service. So probably again that can be expanded. Another interesting thing would be in many advanced countries you have the air ambulance concepts.
Yes.
So even though it would be expensive to begin with, we can make a beginning. at least by trying to establish a small air ambulance service which can airlift patients to major areas, especially in polytrauma. The second thing would be to probably make what you call mobile diagnostic vans, where you install a CT or something into the van, and these go to different places where you have on the spot diagnosis.
Right.
And then you can probably what you call transmit these images to the concerned neurosurgeon or the neurologist, where a call could be taken as to the management. And then basically the concept of remote diagnosis and remote triaging. That would be a very interesting concept. So I think these are the things which probably need to be done to make rapid accessible healthcare.
Currently, the neurosurgery specialty in India has grown definitely leaps and bounds from where we started a few decades ago. And as Sir put it across, it will change in the future, more going into super specialty and providing healthcare outside the four walls of a hospital too, and coming to a diagnosis before we even reach the hospital. Coming to the next question, how do we get India at par with other countries, like you mentioned, having air ambulance services and other facilities to provide good neurosurgical care to patients?
See, again here there's a dichotomy. I mean, India has pockets of excellence. I mean, if you look at various states, major cities, I think the neurosurgical care in many of these centers is at par or even better than many of the centers in the world. But what we lack is the widespread availability of these islands of excellence. For example, AIIMS New Delhi is rated among the topmost hospitals in the world. NIMHANS was rated as among the top 20 hospitals for neurological and neurosurgical care in the world by Newsweek. So it is not that there are no excellence, there is, but the only problem is we do not have them widespread all over the country. It's a very, an unbalanced availability of health services. So what we need to do, I think you need to have massive infrastructure investment, probably make it as a part of a corporate social responsibility, probably bring in public-private partnerships.
What are the latest advances and the new technologies being integrated into neurosurgery?
I think we are doing a lot of genetic work on genetics, basic genetics of tumors, building developing markers which can be targeted by genetic therapy. A lot of work in oncology is going on with multiple institutes, including the Institute of Science, NCBS et al. We had done a protein genome sequencing a few years back, which was published. This was by the neurology team. The last 5 years have seen increase in robotics and artificial intelligence. The Da Vinci robot, I think you might have heard of it. That is there for general surgery. It's still not come up a very big way in neurosurgery, but the way I see it is that over the past 1 or 2 years, multiple spine systems are coming out. And probably way I look at it, probably 5 to 10 years down the line, most of the spine surgery will probably be robotic based. And regarding cranial, I think probably it will take a little more time to get evolved. However, the problem is the costs will remain quite prohibitive. The second thing is artificial intelligence. That again is huge. Probably treatment algorithms will be built, which see what artificial intelligence does is it collates the data from various centers.
Yes.
And gives you the best option. So what it does is basically brings multiple minds together to help a guy who's probably new to the field to make a call on it, how it goes. So I think these are two exciting areas which we are also working upon. Many of the areas, the problem like I mentioned is that most of the robotics systems which are going to be available are going to be quite expensive. So I think we are focusing on building indigenous robotic systems. We have 2 or 3 studies going, designs and tests going on robotic systems. And artificial intelligence, we are trying to build algorithms for how treatment will work out. So I think these are the 2-3 things which we are working upon.
It's very interesting to see how latest technology can be integrated into neurosurgery. And Dr. Dwarkanath is currently doing research.
Yeah, the robotics is we are doing with Baba Atomic.
Yeah. pathways to become a neurosurgeon in India, and how do I get from where I am, a medical student, to where you are, sir?
Well, first thing is to get into neurosurgery, we have two streams available. One is what we call the direct pathway after MBBS, where you have a 6-year integrated neurosurgery course. The thing is that it's available in very limited number of institutes, including NIMHANS, where after you finish your MBBS and your internship, you can write the exam, and if you get selected, you can get the integrated course. The other option is to do your MS in surgery, and post MS you get into the entrance examination, and this is a much wider pathway, and there are much more seats available through the MS general surgery category rather than the direct MBBS category.
Yes.
So these are the two things.
It would be any medical student's dream to get into an apex institute like NIMHANS to study neurosurgery. How would you advise any aspiring medical student to take up this path?
That's what you call a rather tricky question. Actually, the only advice I would like to give is that you have to dream big and work hard. I mean, there is no substitute for hard work. You have to remember there are so many medical streams, so many medical students who are graduating out a year, and very limited number of postgraduate seats. But you also have to remember that if you are passionate about something and you want to do it and you work hard enough, I don't think there's anything which stops you from getting what you want.
Hard work always pays off, and it is tough, the competition is there, but definitely it's worth the results.
True, absolutely. I mean, studying hard doesn't mean you give up everything. If you want to play, you play hard, but you have to study harder.
The next question would be, how can we work together with organizations such as Mission Brain across the globe to help uplift the situation in India?
I think what we could do is, I mean, the Mission Brain is a wonderful initiative, and Professor Lawton is of course one of the biggest names in neurosurgery there is. We could work with them probably on a public-private partnerships to expand neurosurgical facilities,
Yes.
to build infrastructure in remote areas, provide exchange training programs where our students can go and learn, and they can come here and see how things work here.
Definitely.
And these two things are probably, I think, the infrastructure and manpower development, I think, would be the two areas which we should work on together.
Okay. Like their motto is to treat, educate and empower, we being students and neurosurgeons from India can connect globally and help strengthen connections, like how different neurons have different connections with across the brain. Just like that, we can have connections across the globe, and we can help improve the situation in India for patients for better treatment. I would like to conclude by asking the final question. Say, how do you see the scope of neurosurgery in India, and just advice in general for anybody to looking out for this field?
I think what you have to realize is that probably neurosurgery is the toughest surgical field around. I mean, the variety is mind-boggling. The pathologies are varied. I mean, you have right from the spine to the head to pediatric to functional. The field is expanding rapidly. Like what I mentioned before, the subspecialties have come to the fore. There is room for both a general neurosurgeon and a specialized neurosurgeon. What I would like to say is that in the future probably we'll be becoming more and more subspecialized. But what we need to finally remember is that whatever we do, we should do it for the benefit of the patients. And I think patient satisfaction, patient outcomes, and helping the patient in some way or the other should probably be the final motto of all of us.
Definitely.
And I would like to tell to all the medical students here that if you're really passionate about neurosurgery, I don't think there's anything stopping you from joining this specialty. It's a wonderful field, and if you're prepared to put in the hard hours of work, there'll definitely come a time when you will be enjoying your work, and probably you might go on to become one of the famous names in neurosurgery worldwide.
Definitely. Truly inspiring words there, Dr. Dwarkanath. I would like to thank Sir for taking his time off his busy schedule and helping us understand the current situation in neurosurgery. in India, and gaining insight into this will help medical students across the world and in India choose which branch they want to specialize in. It's very nice to take initiative into helping, teaching and nourishing students, and we are truly humbled with your great words of wisdom, and it will act like a guiding light for all of us medical students who are inspired and who want to achieve great things and contribute to the science which has taught us so much so far. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.